Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're taking a deep dive into escaping the poverty trap.
Great to be here.
I know you're all interested in figuring out how things like social and economic factors play a role in poverty, especially here in the UK. And this book, it really gets into those issues and even offers some solutions. So get ready to learn a lot.
Absolutely. It's a really complex issue. But I think if we can understand what causes poverty, we might be able to make some real progress.
That's what we're hoping for. So right away, the book dives into this idea of a societal contract. Like we all give up some freedoms in exchange for some protection and benefits from the government. Kind of a fair trade-off, at least on the surface, right?
Yeah, it seems that way. But the book brings up this interesting point about how that contract starts to break down when you have economic inequality.
Oh, it's a good point.
Like if all the wealth ends up with just a small group of people, then does everyone really feel like they're getting a fair deal? Does everyone even have the same access to those benefits, the ones we're supposedly trading our freedoms for?
That's a really great point. And the book uses some pretty shocking statistics to back it up. It quotes the Institute for Fiscal Studies saying the richest 1% in the UK, they actually hold over 15 times the income of the poorest 20%. That's a huge gap.
It really is. It makes you wonder if the whole idea of a societal contract even works when you have that kind of inequality. Like if it feels like the system is rigged, then why would people even bother playing by the rules?
Yeah, that's a great question. So how do we even start to fix that?
Right.
Well, the book looks at how governments and big institutions, how they try to reduce poverty.
It's not as simple as just one solution. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. The book actually uses some interesting examples. Like Finland, they've had some success with those basic income experiments. But then you look at India, and they've had a lot of trouble with similar programs.
So it's not just about throwing money at the problem then. Why do some programs work when others don't?
It seems like what's really important is what they call targeted interventions, like education, making sure everyone has access to good health care, and a strong social security system. It's not enough to just have those things. They have to work well and be available to everyone. And of course, we can't forget about the economy. We need policies that actually help create jobs and opportunities so people can lift themselves out of poverty for good.
Makes sense. But the book also talks about the impact poverty has on people psychologically, which I found really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. That's often overlooked. The book actually pulls from another book, Scarcity, Why Having Too Little Means So Much. It talks about this idea of cognitive load, basically how scarcity can make it much harder to make good decisions or solve problems.
It's like always being stressed and worried. It just gets harder to think straight or plan for the future, right? So it's not just about lacking money or resources, but you're also lacking that mental bandwidth.
And everyone has experienced this at some point. Think about a time when you were super stressed, maybe deadlines piling up, bills to pay. It's harder to focus, harder to make good choices, right? Well, that kind of pressure and mental burden is what people in poverty deal with constantly.
Wow, that's a powerful way to think about it. It's so much more than just a lack of money. It really affects your entire outlook on life.
It does. But the book also talks about stories of people who have overcome those barriers, people who found ways to change their mindset, you know? People who got support and built a better life.
It's inspiring. It's a good reminder that even when things feel impossible, there's always hope for change. But we need to understand what those barriers are. And the book points to educational inequality as a major factor. It throws out a pretty startling statistic. Only 12% of people from the lowest income groups in the UK, they actually make it to higher education.
It's really discouraging. It makes you wonder, is it a lack of ambition? Or are there just too many systemic barriers in place that prevent people from reaching their full potential? Is there actually equal opportunity, or is it just perpetuating a cycle of disadvantage?
Those are the questions we need to be asking. And the book talks about the Finnish education system, which gets a lot of praise for its focus on equality. Every kid, regardless of their background, they have access to good quality education there.
Right, and the Finnish model is interesting to look at. It makes us ask, what would it take to create a system like that here in the UK? What needs to change? Our policies, funding, even our attitudes towards education itself.
That's a really important conversation to have. Education can be so powerful in giving everyone a fair chance. But there's another more difficult truth the book talks about, how racial disparities play a role in poverty.
Yeah, that's something we can't ignore. The book says it straight out. A black child in Britain is twice as likely to live in poverty compared to a white child. And it's really important to understand that it's not about individual choices, it's about systems and institutions. It's about racism, both historically and how it continues today.
Right. It's the legacy of colonialism, the impact of the slave trade. Those injustices are still affecting people today. It impacts access to education, jobs, healthcare, even where you live. It's a domino effect that's really hard to escape.
And that's exactly why the book emphasizes the need for solutions that get to the root of these problems. We can't just put a Band-Aid on it. We need to look at these systems, these institutions, and ask who benefits from them and who is being left behind. It's really about understanding that these inequalities are built into how our society works, and it's going to take a lot of effort to change that. But before we get into solutions, I think we need to talk about another group that has a really hard time escaping poverty. Single parents.
Yeah, the book definitely talks about the unique challenges they face. The financial strain is obvious, but it's also the emotional toll, right? Not having enough time or resources for education or job training. It's like a constant juggling act, just trying to keep things afloat while raising a family alone.
It's a reality a lot of people don't understand. Or worse, they just stereotype single parents. But they make up a huge portion of people living in poverty. And it's not because of some character flaw. It's about the real obstacles they have to overcome. Imagine trying to work, maybe even 2 jobs, while also being the only one taking care of your kids. It's hard enough without affordable childcare or flexible work options.
So true. It's not just about personal responsibility. We need a system that supports families no matter what they look like. And the book has some really inspiring stories of single parents who beat the odds, people who showed incredible resilience, who found creative solutions, and relied on their communities for support. But it also makes it clear that we need bigger changes to really make things fair for everyone.
Absolutely. We need to think about policies that actually help. Things like affordable housing, healthcare that's easy to access, good quality childcare, and opportunities for education and job training that fit into the reality of being a single parent. It's about investing in families, not punishing them for things they can't control.
So we've talked about some of the big challenges, the systemic factors that contribute to poverty. What about solution? The book looks at a whole range of strategies, and I'm really interested to hear what they are.
Me too. I think our listeners will be interested in what the book says about technology and the future of work. It's changing so fast, it's hard to keep up, there's so much potential, but also some real danger.
It's definitely a hot topic. The book actually mentions a prediction from the Oxford Martin School. They say almost half of all jobs in the U.S. could be automated in the next 20 years. That's kind of a mind-blowing thought. What does that mean for work in the future? How will it affect poverty?
It's a question we all have to think about. On the one hand, automation could lead to a lot of people losing their jobs, especially those in low-skill positions. That could lead to more unemployment and make poverty even worse. It's like something out of a dystopian movie, but it's a real possibility if we don't plan for it.
That's the scary part. But the book doesn't just focus on the negative, right? It also talks about how technology could actually create opportunities and help people get out of poverty.
For sure. It's not just about jobs disappearing. It's about what kinds of jobs will be available in the future. The book emphasizes the importance of adapting. We need to invest in education and training, especially in areas like tech and digital skills. If we can help people develop the skills they need to succeed in a world where technology is constantly changing, then it could be a really powerful tool for people to improve their lives.
So we need to be proactive. We need to look ahead and prepare ourselves and future generations for these changes.
Exactly. But let's talk about some of the specific solutions the book proposes. It starts with welfare reform, which is always a tough subject. The current system, even though it tries to help, can sometimes keep people stuck in a cycle of dependence. It doesn't always give them a way to become self-sufficient.
Yeah, it's that classic debate. How do you balance providing support with encouraging people to work? What does the book suggest?
One idea is to move away from traditional benefits and create a system with time limits on support, but also really strong job training and placement programs. So imagine a system where as you start to earn more, the benefits gradually decrease. That creates a smoother transition to financial independence instead of just cutting people off suddenly, which can discourage them from working.
It's about building a bridge, not just a safety net. But what about people who have a really hard time finding work, even with support? People who might struggle in a rapidly changing job market.
The book actually talks about a job guarantee. It's a pretty radical idea. It would mean the government guarantees a job for anyone who wants to work. If there aren't enough jobs available, they would create them maybe in areas like infrastructure, environmental work, or caring for others in the community.
Wow, that's a big shift in how we think about work and the role of the government. It raises a lot of questions about how much it would cost, whether it would be efficient, and what kind of jobs would be created. But the book argues that if we're serious about tackling poverty, it's an investment worth considering.
It's complicated, for sure, but it's something to think about. The book also emphasizes education reform, touched on that earlier, but it's worth going a little deeper.
I agree. What specific changes does the book suggest?
It goes beyond just funding. We need to rethink our entire approach to education. It starts with early childhood development. Investing in good preschool programs can have a huge impact on a child's future. It sets them up for success in school and later in life. The book also says we need to put more money into schools in disadvantaged areas. Every child deserves a quality education, no matter where they live.
Right. It's about creating a level playing field. Education should be a fundamental right, not a privilege. But it's not just about access. It's also about what we teach.
Exactly. The book argues that we should be focusing more on skills that are in high demand, especially in fields like technology, healthcare, and renewable energy. We have to make sure our education system is preparing young people for the jobs of the future, not the jobs of the past.
It's about giving them the tools they need to succeed in a world that's changing all the time. But education takes time. For people who need help right now, the book also talks about employment programs.
Yeah, these programs can give people a direct path to finding work. They offer training and skills development that can lead to good jobs. The book mentions some successful initiatives like TechBridge, which trains people from disadvantaged backgrounds to get into the tech industry, which is growing so fast and pays well.
It's about giving people the tools to build a better future for themselves. But not everyone learns best in the traditional classroom. What about people who need a more hands-on approach?
That's where apprenticeships and vocational training come in. These programs give people on-the-job training. They can earn money while they learn, gaining valuable experience and skills that can lead to great careers.
It's recognizing that there are different paths to success. We need a system that's flexible enough to meet everyone's needs. But beyond these more individual approaches, the book also talks about the power of community-based initiative.
Absolutely. It's about finding local solutions for local problems. The book gives examples like the Harlem Children's Zone, which is a really impressive community development program. They offer all sorts of services, education, healthcare, social support, everything aimed at breaking the cycle of poverty right there within the community.
It's a holistic approach, recognizing that poverty is more than just lacking resources. It's about a lack of opportunity, of support systems, of hope.
Exactly. The book also looks at how technology can help solve these problems, not just through automation, but also things like online learning platforms that provide affordable education or microfinance programs that give people in underserved communities the capital to start their own businesses.
So it's about using technology to connect people with the resources and opportunities they need. But technology isn't perfect. We have to be careful about things like the digital divide and make sure everyone has access.
Right. If we're not careful, technology can actually make existing inequalities worse. But if it's used in a thoughtful way, it can be a powerful force for good.
Okay, so we've talked about welfare reform, education reform, employment programs, community initiatives, and the role of technology. There's one more strategy the book explores that's usually pretty controversial: progressive taxation.
Yes. The idea that people who earn more should pay a higher percentage of their income in taxes. Some people love it, some people hate it. The book looks at all sides of this issue, the arguments for and against a more progressive tax system.
For those who don't know, it's basically the idea of redistributing wealth. The government uses tax revenue to fund social programs and safety nets, creating a fairer system.
Exactly. The book argues that a more progressive tax system could really help reduce income inequality. The extra tax revenue could be invested in things like education, healthcare, affordable housing, and other programs that help people who are struggling.
It's about shared responsibility, recognizing that when society thrives, everyone benefits, not just the wealthy. But obviously there are people who disagree with this idea.
There are. Some people argue that progressive taxation actually hurts economic growth. They say it discourages investment and punishes success. The book acknowledges these concerns, but it also presents evidence that a well-designed progressive tax system can actually help the economy by increasing demand and giving more people a chance to move up.
It's complicated. There's no easy answer. But the book encourages us to talk about these issues, to look at the evidence, and think about the potential consequences of our choices.
It's about having informed discussion, understanding that there are always trade-offs, and ultimately trying to create a system that balances individual responsibility with the well-being of everyone.
We've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about a whole range of strategies for tackling poverty, from changing existing systems to embracing new technologies, from empowering individuals to collective action. The book offers a lot of different possibilities.
And it's important to remember that these are just some of the ideas from escaping the poverty trap. This deep dive is just a starting point.
It's a jumping off point to explore these ideas further and think about how you can be part of the solution.
Right. And for those who want to learn more, the book has tons of information, data, and real-world examples.
It's a great resource for anyone who wants to really understand poverty, the challenges we face, and what we can do about it.
And while systemic change is crucial, the book also talks about how important it is for individuals to take action. It's about understanding that you have the power to make choices, to develop your skills, to take control of your life and create a better future for yourself and your family.
It's about realizing that even if the system feels unfair, you can still make a difference. You can still work hard and build a better future, not just for yourself, but for your community and future generations.
Exactly. And that's where things like education, skills training, starting your own business, even personal development becomes so important. These are the tools you can use to empower yourself, to break free from limitations and create a life with purpose.
It's about moving from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance, recognizing your own potential and taking steps to achieve your dream.
It's about believing that change is possible, that hope is real, and that the human spirit is incredibly resilient.
Those are powerful words, and they lead us perfectly to the final message of the book. The fight against poverty is an ongoing battle. It requires a multi-pronged approach. We need systemic change, yes, but we also need individuals to step up, communities to come together, and a collective belief that a better future is within our reach.
It's a call to action. It's an invitation to join the fight, not as bystanders, but as active participants, to use our voices, our resources, and our actions to create a more just and equitable world.
So what can our listeners do? What concrete steps can they take to contribute in their own community?
That's a great question. I think the first step is awareness. Learn about the issues, the challenges, and the potential solution. Read books like Escaping the Poverty Trap. Have thoughtful conversation. Be willing to question your own assumptions. It is, and it can feel kind of overwhelming, right? Like, where do you even start?
Where do you begin?
I always tell people, start local. Think about your own community. What are the needs right here where you live? Maybe there are food banks or shelters that need help. Are there organizations working on affordable housing or job training programs?
Yeah, it's about actually doing something, not just talking about it, getting involved.
Exactly. And you don't have to dedicate your whole life. Even a little bit of time each week can make a difference. Plus, you get to connect with your community, meet people who care about these issues. You can really learn a lot about what's working and what's not by being on the ground.
And for those who can't donate a lot of time, there are other ways to contribute, right?
Of course. Those organizations that are working directly with people in need, they always need financial support. Even a small donation can really help. You can also advocate for change. Contact your local representatives, Speak up at town hall meetings, write letters to the editor, share information on social media. All those things help raise awareness, put pressure on those in power to actually do something, and push for policies that get to the root of the problem.
It's about using whatever you have, whether it's your time, your money, or your voice to make a difference. And even small actions, they can have a big impact, right?
Totally. I think it's easy to feel like you're just one person and what can you really do to change the world? But that's just not true. Every act of kindness, every dollar donated, every conversation, all those efforts to spread awareness, they all add up. It's a cultural shift, one interaction at a time.
That's a good point. So the fight against poverty, it's a marathon, right? Not a sprint. It's going to take all of us working together and never giving up hope.
Beautifully said. We all have a responsibility to build a better world. It starts with each of us, right here in our own community, taking action, talking about these tough issues, and demanding better for ourselves and for future generations.
This has been such an insightful conversation. Escaping the Poverty Trap really does live up to its name. It's filled with so much information, really makes you think, and it offers some real hope for change.
If you really want to understand what poverty is all about and explore some solutions and feel inspired to get involved, this book is a great place to start.
And just a reminder to our listeners, you can find Escaping the Poverty Trap on Amazon, Kindle, and Google Play Books.
Definitely check it out.
Thanks for joining us on this journey, everyone. Until next time, keep learning, keep asking those tough questions, and keep fighting for a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.